Emily Carter never imagined her peaceful suburban afternoon would twist into something that made her feel like the walls were closing in. One moment she was arranging fresh lilies on her dining table, sunlight warming the hardwood floor beneath her feet, and the next a thunderous pounding shook the entire house. Blue and red lights washed across the living room like flashing accusations. Before she could even inhale, the unmistakable silhouette of two police officers stood outside her door, hands hovering near their belts, faces stone cold with suspicion. Someone had reported dangerous activity at her home, as if she were hiding something sinister behind her quiet routines and garden tools. But what none of them expected was who would walk out behind her. Someone in full uniform. Someone who would turn their assumptions to dust. Watch until the end. Wait a second, let us know where you're watching from in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more powerful and inspiring stories just like this one. Emily Carter had moved to Willow Creek Estates because she wanted a quiet life. A life where she could breathe without judgment, designed from her home office, and enjoy evenings watering her small patch of flowers. It was the kind of neighborhood where every house looked pulled from a magazine spread, where children played in cul-de-sacs, and retirees waved from rocking chairs. She hoped the fresh start would suit her, and her wife, Captain Laura Carter, who served in the Army and spent long stretches away for training. Emily wasn't the type to cause trouble. She baked muffins for neighbors, kept her lawn trimmed to the HOA's exact measurements, and made sure her porch light worked every night. She wanted to blend in, not stand out. But she noticed something immediately. The hush that fell when she walked past certain homes, the tight smiles, the subtle glances exchanged between residents when they saw her wedding ring, when they realized the couple living in house number 27 wasn't like the others. Still, she tried to shrug it off. Every neighborhood had its quirks. Maybe they just needed time to warm up to her. But days slipped into weeks, and the uneasiness grew. Something about the way a few neighbors watched her, long enough to be uncomfortable, short enough to deny, pricked at her instincts. She felt the tension, even though she pretended she didn't. What Emily didn't know was that the whispers had already begun. The kind of whispers that spread behind curtains, fueled by prejudice, disguised as concern. And those whispers were about to spill into her life most terrifyingly. The first sign of trouble came quietly. A neatly folded note slipped under her door, like an unwanted gift. It read, "Your yard items violate aesthetic guidelines. Please remove them immediately." Emily blinked. Yard items. She had nothing more than flower pots and a watering can. She let it slide. A week later, another note appeared. "More aggressive residents are uncomfortable with your frequent deliveries. Please explain. They were simply design materials. Fabric samples, sketch pads, client packages." She ignored that one too. But then came the third message, and this one hit differently. "You are being watched. Please comply with HOA expectations." Watched. The word burrowed under her skin. The following days proved that the message wasn't a metaphor. A man across the street, graybeard, cardigan, stood with arms crossed every afternoon, his expression cold as he stared at her while she worked on a wooden bench. Another neighbor, a woman who always pretended to be friendly, lifted her phone and filmed Emily watering her plants. Why? What had she done? She lived quietly, paid dues, followed every rule. Then the HOA emails started. Passive-aggressive, vague, dripping with judgment. "We have received multiple concerns regarding your activities. Your home may violate community safety standards. We urge you to cooperate." Taintly tried contacting them for clarification, but the responses were circular and unhelpful. It felt intentional, like they were building a file against her. Still, she tried not to disturb Laura. Her wife was away training recruits, enduring 16-hour days in the military. Emily wanted to handle things herself. But things escalated quickly. A certified letter arrived, accusing her of running an unlicensed business operation from home. Another letter claimed she possessed dangerous power equipment. Then came a false complaint that she was creating a disturbance with loud machinery, even though she never worked outside after 6 in the evening. The neighborhood grew colder, more dissonant, more accusing. Someone posted anonymously in the neighborhood Facebook group, "Some people shouldn't live here. It's unsafe." Emily's heart cracked when she read it. She had never been unsafe. She had never made anyone unsafe. But the judgment had been cast long before she even unpacked her boxers. The morning it happened, a morning she will never forget. She had just finished sweeping her porch when she noticed 2 neighbors whispering across the street, both glancing at her. One held a phone. It was already too late. The call had already been made. The pounding on the door shook her to the bone. Emily flinched. dropping the roll of paper towels in her hands. Her heart lunged into her throat as she approached the door. She had never heard knocking like that. Urgent, forceful, angry. She peeked through the window. 2 officers, hands near their holsters, eyes sharp with suspicion. Her stomach dropped. Wet. She opened the door. The officers didn't greet her. They commanded her, ordered her to step outside, told her to keep her hands visible, asked if she was alone. Her breath trembled as she stepped back, her voice barely steady as she answered their clipped questions. They said the HOA had reported dangerous equipment, illegal construction, and possible hazardous materials. It's hit her like bullets. Lies. Every one of them. Her pulse thundered. Her palms turned damp. Fear wrapped around her like a chokehold. One officer stepped onto her porch. Another scanned her living room. She could feel judgment radiating from them, fueled by the nonsense they had been fed. And then footsteps echoed in the hallway behind her. Emily didn't have time to speak before a strong, calm, authoritative voice cut through the air. Captain Laura Carter stepped into view. Her army uniform immaculate, medals catching the sunlight, rank gleaming. The officers stiffened. The tension shattered. Their posture changed instantly, from aggressive to uncertain, from confrontational to nervous. Laura stepped forward, her voice controlled, yet undeniably commanding. She asked for their report, their evidence, their justification. They had none. Their confidence crumbled as fast as it had appeared, and Emily watched, breath slowly returning, as the truth began to unravel. The officer's supervisor arrived minutes later. By then, Laura had laid out the inconsistencies in the HOA complaints, listing each false accusation Emily had endured. The supervisor reviewed the report, thin, vague, and clearly biased. He apologized, his voice heavy with discomfort. The investigation that followed didn't take long. Neighbors were interviewed. Digital submissions were analyzed. The chain of complaints was traced back to a small group within the HOA leadership. Their reasoning: they felt uncomfortable. They wanted traditional families. They didn't approve of certain lifestyles. It wasn't about rules. It wasn't about noise. It wasn't about safety. It was prejudice wrapped in paperwork. The HOA president was removed. 3 board members resigned. Mandatory anti-bias training was implemented for the entire community. Letters of apology were sent, some sincere, many not. Through it all, Emily didn't move. She refused to be pushed out of a home she had every right to live in. Days later, as she watered her plants, a young girl from down the street approached her shyly and said she was glad Emily and Laura were still there. Her small voice held a kindness most adults lacked. It reminded Emily that hate isn't inherited. It is taught, and unlearning it takes courage. Now when Emily walks through the neighborhood, she walks taller, not because the stairs have disappeared, but because she knows she survived something meant to break her spirit. And the question remains: how many more people must face suspicion simply for existing differently before communities learn to live without fear-driven judgment? Where are you watching from? Take care.